What's going on, everybody? Happy game day. Sorry for the slight delay in going live, some technical difficulties, but we figured it out. But welcome to the Miami versus Middle Tennessee State pregame show. We're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about some other things that have transpired, I guess, in the Canes news since the Texas A&M game till now. The biggest, of course, being the whole Tyler Van Dyke saying we're not a college atmosphere situation. Barstool Sports coming out and kind of, whoever wrote the article, kind of twisting TVD's words a little bit and making it seem like something that was much bigger than it really was. So we'll touch on that now. We'll let people come into the chat here really quick, let that fill up. But let me know in the comments, how are we feeling about today's opponent? I mean, we should all be feeling the same about today's opponent. It should be a dominating performance. Miami is, I believe, a 25.5 or 26.5 point favorite right now, according to Vegas. It was 28.5 a couple days ago. It's probably gone down a few points because of the inclement weather on the horizon. So, guys, if you're going to the game, please stay safe, stay dry. Looks like it's going to be nasty out there at Miami Gardens. So, take care of yourselves. It could, with the lightning and the rain and everything, hopefully, there's no delays in the game, no delays in kickoff. I really want them to get this game in. I think Miami needs this game to kind of wash away last weekend, and just an opportunity to, try some new things, maybe make some adjustments against not a super high quality opponent and an opponent that they should dominate. And more importantly, they need the reps. The receivers need the reps. TBD needs to get into some kind of a rhythm with that passing game. And I think it's a good opportunity to do that. Feels like rain and a run game. That's what I'm thinking. This could be a lot of short passes, maybe a deep shot or two here and there. But I have a feeling if it's one of those days, which happens a lot in South Florida, where rain on the horizon and it just never comes to fruition, or the clouds just kind of avoid the stadium for whatever reason, and it's a dry game or relatively dry, I think we do see Miami open up the offense a little bit as far as the passing game. I do see them trying new things, maybe trying some new players at wide receiver, inserting some new guys in the rotation, targeting new guys. I see a little bit of that happening today, just not too much. My score prediction for right now is 48-13. I think this defense is going to dominate. Maybe Middle Tennessee sneaks an extra touchdown in there in garbage time later in the game, but I don't see this game starting off slow like it did against Southern Miss, where Miami kind of struggled to get any kind of footing on offense. They would move the ball, but then they would stall out, not unlike Texas A&M in that game. But I think their goal is to get off to a fast start, and I think they do that. I think they do that on offense and just really never look back. I have faith in that. Sage, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Hustle harder. I don't think I've seen either one of you guys on the chat, at least not lately. So welcome to the show. Appreciate the support. Who starts at right tackle? Man, that's a good question, because you have kind of a good problem where you have two tackles as good as Zion and John Campbell. If it were me, I would just kick John Campbell out to the right side, or just put Justice Olushone out there, who has a lot of experience. Brian, I know that name. What's going on, buddy? Welcome. Let me know how you're feeling about this game. Let me know what your score predictions are. Also, give me some game stat predictions, and feel free to be bold. I think in this game we can. Such as, I don't know, Jalen Knighton runs for over 100 yards. Will Mallory has 2 touchdowns. TVD, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. I don't know. Throw me some stats. Let's have a little fun with this. While we do that, I do want to address the whole, Barstool article and all that. Honestly, this is something I'm used to, for being a Hurricanes fan for the past 22 years. This is yet another person that obviously did not do their research, that obviously knows nothing about the actual university. And I wanted to come out here and rant in more detail, but I think Mike Ryan of the Levitard Show put it so perfectly that I don't want to dive too deep into it, because you should go, and it's not going to be hard to find. Go check out what he said. It's like a 1-minute clip, basically perfectly describing why doesn't Miami draw 80,000 people, 70,000 people? Why don't we sell out? Why doesn't a program with the history of Miami sell out every home game? Well, I'll list some of the reasons, but he hit one that I never knew how to word it until I heard him word it. Miami is a very small private university. They are, and this was the phrase that did it for me. Miami historically is a massive outlier from the other programs. Yes, the other big programs, historically, of course, the Oklahomas, the Notre Dames, Ohio State, Michigan. They are in rural college towns that, those programs have been around for over 100 years. Their stadiums fit 100,000 people. And also in those rural suburban towns, there's not a lot to do aside from watch football in the fall. You go to a city like Miami, and it's not just Miami. Take LA as an example as well. Big cities like that are not, big urban cities are not college football towns. And my University of Miami also is, Mike Ryan made this point, that it is an enrollment of 17,000 kids. It is a very small student body for as big and as big a name as a university it is. It's a small private school, 17,000 kids. I think I heard a stat, correct me if I'm wrong, over 70% of them are not from the state of Florida. It's a very expensive school. So, a lot of locals like me could not have, I got accepted to University of Miami. I simply couldn't afford to go there. My scholarships took me to FIU. I've said that many times on my channel. I went to FIU. It was a smarter decision. I don't regret it. Graduated with no student loans. Thank you, Lord. Well, not for grad school. That's a different story. But, it was the smarter move for me, even though I would have loved to go to University of Miami. I grew up 10 minutes away from campus. But that campus is very, very small. It's in the middle of a wealthy neighborhood known as Coral Gables that has been there for many, many years. It's a lot of old money in that neighborhood. For the out of towners, for the people that don't really understand that, look at a map of University of Miami and you tell me, oh, we should have an on-campus stadium. Where? Pull up the map. Tell me where you would fit that. Number one. Number two, even if they find a spot for it, the city of Coral Gables, the citizens of Coral Gables, would never in a million years allow a football stadium to be built in their backyard. Never going to happen. Which is why, yes, they borrowed the Orange Bowl from the Dolphins for many years. And you know what? It was our home. It was awesome. There was a magic about the Orange Bowl when it was full. Hell, when it was like, what was capacity? Like 72,000? We'd pack 84,000 in there somehow. But even when there was 45, 50,000, a respectable, not sold out, but a respectable crowd for those games, for a Virginia Tech game or something like that, dude, there was a magic to that stadium. It was loud. It was rocking. It was just something about that area. I don't know what it is. Miami people are just louder. I don't know what to tell you. But Brother Jay Blaze, I was there 89 to 91. Oh, you went to University of Miami those years? Man, that's a nice little 2-3 year run to go. That's awesome. So Brother Jay, you witnessed 2 national championships as a student. How was that? Tell me how that was. Yeah, let's get this win. Ooh, a little prediction here. Mello, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of bold prediction I want to see. Thank you. Mello. I think a new name at wide receiver emerges today. I think someone aside from Keyshawn, or you know what? Maybe it's Keyshawn because he really hasn't had a big game yet. Some new name aside from X has a really big game today for Miami. But thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. But as I was saying, Yeah, Miami is such an outlier for many reasons. There's that. There's the tiny student body. There's the student body that's really, a lot of them are going there more for academics. A lot of them come from money. Most of them, like I said, something around 70% do not come from South Florida. South Florida kids go elsewhere. Miami-Dade College, FIU, Florida, Florida State, UCF, all great schools because they're public schools. Their scholarships actually work there. University of Miami, unless, you come from a rich family, you got a trust fund, or you were the valedictorian of your class, probably not going. Brother Jay, unfortunately, I was able to graduate. It's very expensive. Wow. No, I think it's like, someone told me, we were at the watch party in Orlando. I was talking to someone. Maybe they're in the chat right now. God, I'm blanking on their name. I had a great conversation with him. He and his wife were there. And he was telling me how 2 of his kids got accepted to University of Miami. But then when they got what the bill would have been, something like $60,000 a year, I think. It's something insane. $60,000 a year. Not for the 4 years, a year, or it might have been even more. So they were like, screw that. We're sending them to USF. And so that's what they ended up doing. And I don't blame them. Oh, was not able to graduate. Okay, I figured that's what you meant. Bergie. I haven't seen that name in a while. What's going on, Bergie? Good morning, John. You think Tyler finally gets his timing straight for this game? Yeah, I think he gets a little more, assuming it's dry. He gets a little more in sync with his receivers, I believe. I think they make it a point to build some rapport there with someone other than X. We all know the connection TVD had with X. On third down, he knew where he was going, and X was open 9 out of 10 times. He knew exactly where to put the ball for him. I think he gets his timing down a little bit. I'm of the opinion that I think people came down on Tyler a little too hard. Yeah, he missed a few throws, but I think it was more honestly on the receivers than it was on him. I'm going to be honest with you. There was, some lazy route running, some drops that, 21 of 41 didn't look great on the stat sheet. Should have at least, just with the drops. I mean, there was like 6 or 7 drops. Let's say they catch 4. Let's say they catch 4 of the 7 drops. Because some of them were contested, some weren't. So that would be 25 of 41. And instead of throwing for 217, he throws for like 260, 270, probably throws for a touchdown. Not to single him out because he had a great game. But Henry Parrish, dude, that ball hits you right in the chest. He catches that, it's a first down and more down the sideline. I don't know if he scores, but we're deep in the red zone if that play's completed. And Coach Gaddis schemed him open perfectly. And I don't think that's talked about enough. People say, oh, play calling sucked. No, it didn't. I would have called different plays in different moments, but for the most part, look at the play design of the running game. Everyone thinks, oh, the running game, it's like Madden. You just select halfback dive and boom, it's simple. No, look at a lot of those running plays that we got 8 to 10 to 12 yards. All the tight ends that were going in motion pre-snap, the pulling guards. Sometimes we pulled 1, sometimes we pulled 2, sometimes a tackle pulled. The play design was much better, much more sophisticated than the kind of running plays that Lashley had. Lashley's offense was dependent on the big play in the air. If we weren't getting that big play early in the game, it was going to be a long day. This running game, I think having a more consistent running game and, moving in small chunks and moving the chains, I think is a better foundation to build off. Yes, you need a high octane passing offense to win at this level. For sure. You need that, but you need to be able to move the chains first. If you can't do A, then B's not going to be, you don't know which Canes team is going to show up. I know at the very least, at least this season, that we're going to have a tough physical team in the trenches and we're going to be able to move the ball on you. The question is, can we punch it into the end zone? That's what the rest of the season is going to be for. Put in Garcia, see if the offense picks up. I'm all for putting him in the second half. TVD has not earned getting benched yet, in my opinion. We're still ways away from that. Again, I really don't put a lot on him. But at some point, yeah, TVD is going to have to, if he's the guy we think he is, he's going to have to start carrying this offense a little bit. Whatever he has to do, make adjustments at the line, audibles, just be that much more accurate, just because he knows his receivers don't get a ton of separation, and he knows some are going to get dropped. TVD knows he's got to be that much more perfect. Ramon says, I can't stand when they say, oh, but you didn't go to UM. Mostly FSU students. Yeah, I know. I heard it all day. I heard it at FIU. UM is a city of Miami ran fan base, not the student body. Thank you. Same in LA with USC. You think all those USC fans went to USC? Come on. They are mostly a fan base, as far as I know, of citizens of Los Angeles and, the surrounding areas, as they should be. Nothing wrong with that. And remember, for many years, Los Angeles didn't have an NFL team. They had USC. So that's why that happened. Miami, not quite the same thing. We have the Dolphins, yes, but really UM, since the early days, since the 80s when we were dominating all the way to the early 2000s, Miami's always been followed like a second pro team. It's like Saturday's pro team number one, Sunday's pro team number two. That's how people follow it. And you know what? Miami, aside from the whole student body, so, small, tiny student body, very few of them are interested in football. They go for academics. They come from out of state. And Miami is also a very transient town. It's, especially today, not so much in the 80s, but today, I would say 80%, 75, 80% of people in Miami probably, if you bring up football, they think you're talking about a different sport entirely. There's a lot of people. It's a melting pot. A lot of people in the city of Miami from different countries, and it's more of a melting pot than ever. And that's great. But remember, American football, not popular outside of America. Let me just remind you of that. Go to these other college towns. That's America. Okay. Miami, a lot of different representation from different nations. Again, that's okay. But all those things, plus Miami just kind of being a fickle town in general, they're an event town, not really a sports town. If you're not winning, like the Heat have built a nice fan base, but remember, it's only 20,000 in that arena, and they've won pretty consistently. They've won championships. They've had deep playoff runs. Last year, they were 1 3-pointer away from making the finals. The Panthers are building a following now. The fans kind of follow winning, and we have to share that market with other people, with other teams. In fact, I've gone to games where I've gone to UM games, right, where it's Saturday afternoon, noon kickoff, 3:30 kickoff, where there's a Heat game that night. There's a Panther game that night. Some of you crazy fans will do both in one day. 99% of people won't. All right, so we literally have to share that fan base with other teams who are now doing very well. So you got to factor that in. Does Tallahassee have any pro sports teams, in the same city, just a 30-minute drive away? No, they don't. You're comparing two completely different things. I agree, John, the drops killed us. I think we saw a lot of different looks, and we hadn't seen the first two games. Execution of certain plays makes a different ball game concerning AM, 100%. Yeah, and you don't even have to look at the passing game, the special teams. Dude, the muffed punt in the first quarter. We had just marched down the field and tied the game with a field goal. Just got a quick 3 and out, and we're getting the ball back again. We got all the momentum. We're like, all right, here we go. Here's where we take the lead. Then the punt is muffed. That absolutely killed the momentum. Now, great teams, not good, but great teams know how to bounce back from that, or they just limit those mistakes altogether. We are not a great team yet, and I fully understand that. But, man, that one hurt. Tyler seemed motionless or something, or like something's bothering him. I'm glad you brought up the something's bothering him, because I don't know if you guys saw it, I saw TVD wincing in pain a lot during that game. I don't know if maybe something's up with him there. This is just something I noticed. He did get hit. He didn't get sacked. O-line did a great job protecting him, but he did get hit. He did get hurried a few times. Maybe he tweaked something. I don't know. I don't want to blame it on injury, but I did notice him, wincing a bit. But I mean, part of being a quarterback is taking those hits and getting up and keeping going. So it's probably just a matter of that. We haven't heard anything, so there's probably nothing there. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe something physically was kind of bothering him that day. Who knows? I like to see a few interceptions and sacks today based on how much they throw. 38-17. I could see that being the score, Matt, if it's a torrential downpour. I see us winning 38-17, maybe not covering the spread. I really hope he has a good game. No, me too. Me too. Yeah, Tyler, if you're talking emotionally, mentally, yeah, he just seemed disappointed, if anything. My friend sold tickets to the Argentina soccer game last night at Hard Rock for $1,500. Yeah, that's not happening here for a football game. I don't care if we're the number one team in the country. Unless it's a big opponent. We're number one and we're facing number two A&M or Clemson next year at home. Those games might go for that amount of money. Miami and New England with the division title on the line on a Sunday. Yeah, that could go for that amount of money. Big events. That's how Miami is. And to kind of round out my point there, Miami's never going to be a place that draws capacity crowds for a game like today. I can tell you right now, it's going to be, especially with the rain. But let's say, again, no rain. Let's say it's dry. Let's say the rain avoids the stadium. 38,000 at the game today? Maybe 40 out of a capacity 64. I'm being kind saying maybe 40. If it was at night, maybe 45. That's the other thing. People see the heat index in September in Miami and they're like, screw that, we're going to the beach. That's the other thing you gotta compete with. You gotta compete with so many things. Look, I'll end with this. Back in 2001, we drew 30,000 to see the greatest team of all time play Temple. In another game that same season, Troy State, I think they drew like 30 to 35,000. But big game in November where the weather's nicer. It's later in the season. The games are more important. Syracuse and Washington that same season, almost capacity crowds. The Washington game, the one where we beat them by like 60 points, I think was a sellout. And it was a night game. It was the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend. It was perfect. Everyone's in town. Beautiful. Perfect scenario. Those are the times where you see a sellout crowd. You're not going to get it for the noon kickoffs against Duke. And you know what? That's okay. I'm fine with that. Give me the winning. You can keep the sellout crowds every game. You can keep it. Give me the winning. Another good point Mike Ryan made. A&M, they draw 100,000 people for the home games. That's awesome. That's wonderful. I hear that people are very nice. But you know what? They haven't won a national title since the 1930s. And I can't remember the last time in my lifetime that they've won a conference championship. So there you go. Anyways, I'll drop it there. In 2002, we opened the season with Penn State. They packed 100,000. The next weekend, they played some nobody at the OB, and it was 30K. I remember. The next weekend they played Rutgers. Actually, I found the ticket stub the other day for that game, the home opener against Rutgers. To be fair, it was raining a lot that day. I remember I was 14 at the time. I remember sitting with my friend, his little brother, his dad, and my dad in the west end zone with like ponchos, like everyone was like huddled under the upper deck like you would do in the Orange Bowl if it rained, or if it was 1,000 degrees. And yeah, we beat Rutgers like 65-0 or something like that. But the rain made a difference. Then we had maybe 30 to 40,000, and it was only that much because it was the home opener. But I remember that in not Beaver Stadium, in Happy Valley in Penn State, I think it was 110,000 for that game, and we silenced them. So like, whatever. I stopped paying attention to the crowd issue. It's always been this way. Even when Jimmy was here, the crowd situation is exactly the same. It would never change. Thank you, Bergie. I was not around, unfortunately, for the games in the 80s. I would have loved to have been. I would have loved to have been. I was born in 87 for context. So I would have loved to have gone to the game in 86 against Brian Bosworth and that Oklahoma team. That was like the game of the century at the time. It was number 1 versus number 2. Rocking, packed house. I've seen the game on YouTube. But you don't see the ones, like I said, against a crappy opponent at noon or at 3:30 where it's hot as hell and there's 30,000. Look, years from now, they're probably not going to bring up the crappy crowds if we start winning again. So I agree with you, Bergie. It's always been this way. It's Miami. It's how Miami is. We got a lot to compete with down here. We're okay with that. And, we have the luxury of getting criticized more and getting more attention and having more pressure on us to win because we're Miami. And you know what? I think as fans, we're okay with that. I think it was Troy they played. It was Rutgers they played that second game. I remember that vividly. Troy might have been the game after because I think the Washington game was supposed to be played right after Rutgers, but because of 9/11, they had to push it to the end of the season, which actually ended up being a much better atmosphere for that game. Hit the like button. Yes, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate all the support. Is Ivy going to have another great day? I think he is. I think Ivy figured something out, man. I think this defensive scheme is tailored towards his skill set a little more. And it's not just him. I think multiple corners are just playing better in this style of defense. Because how long have we had the defense where we don't play bump and run? We don't play man on man, which is what these young men, these kids are used to growing up, playing Pop Warner and playing high school down here. That's how you play. That's the style down here. This, soft zone BS that you got to play it every once in a while, I think, but they were not allowed. I remember Tracy Howard not allowed to, I think he got benched because he saw something and just that football instinct took over and he had that pick 6 against Virginia. I think it was the opening play of the game. I think he got benched after that. So, now that style of play is encouraged. Let the Heat be in last place and see how cheap those tickets become. Dude, I don't know if you're from Miami, Dogo, but I remember there was a couple of years right after the Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway era going into the Dwayne Wade, Shaq era. D Wade was drafted in 2003. So there was a couple years in between there where Zoe had left. He went to the Nets. They're kind of ripping apart the team. They had just drafted Caron Butler, and he was like the only guy on the team that was playing well. The crowds were bad. I remember D Wade's his first highlight in his rookie season where he dunked. I forgot who he dunked on. He dunked on somebody. Look at the crowd behind him. The AAA is like less than half full. It was bad. I can't even remember a time where a Heat home game wasn't like packed or almost packed. But if you go back that far and see that tape, it was like 20 years ago. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The Yankees there was a time in the 90s where they weren't that good. Before the late 90s when Joe Torre took over, the Yankees were not good, man. They were not making the playoffs, and you turn on a Yankee game midweek, that place was empty. So don't this notion that Miami is the only place that does this. Please get out of here. It's just completely, utterly false. Been here since '83. Nice. Cam Kitchens is super impressive. I love Cam Kitchens. That's a future All-American right there. I was saying during the offseason, he's our best safety. He's the most well-rounded. I like Avante's, the it factor that he has, I like the attitude he plays with. James, I love his length, his size, his athletic ability. He just, gets a little bit of knucklehead in him sometimes on the field where he just tries to throw a shoulder into guys. He doesn't wrap up. Although in the last game, he did a little bit better job wrapping up, I thought. Everybody's tackling better, in my opinion. And I don't think I mentioned this during my Tuesday stream, but that play where James Williams threw the guy to the ground, and he gets flagged for unnecessary roughness. Horrible, horrible call. And you're watching it live and you're a little more emotional. I went back and watched the clip of it later in the week. It didn't even look as bad as it looked live. The play was still going. The guy's trying to break away from the tackle. Explain to me how that's a penalty. And sure enough, that 15-yard penalty gets him in the red zone. They end up scoring on us. So bad penalty on a horrible call that should not have been called, and a muff punt led to Texas A&M's 2 touchdowns. We got a solid defense, folks. I think you're going to see it I hope they keep it going the rest of the season, because that ACC Coastal, we're going to win. We're going to go on a run here if this defense keeps playing the way they are. And you just limit the mental errors. Limit the mental errors, limit the drops. We're going to be okay. We may not blow everyone out, but we're going to win a lot of football games. James is doing better as an emotion. Let it fuel, not hurt your play. 100%. All right, guys. So let's see. I'm going to be on like 5 more minutes. Come on. Let me see more predictions. What do you guys think? Oh, Leonard Taylor, he's been playing much better, much more consistent as of late. I don't know what got into him at the halftime of the Southern Miss game. I could say that for a lot of defenders, actually, because the defense started clicking after halftime of that game. That's one guy that's really woken up. He's been much more consistent, and it's not going to show up on the stat sheet always for a defensive tackle. Keep an eye on him and how disruptive he is. Dude, that first possession where A&M looked like they were going to score on us on the opening drive, he had that big play on 3rd down where he hit the quarterback, just slapped that blocker. Like he just smacked him to the side, went forward. I don't think he sacked him. I think he hit him as he was getting rid of the ball. Incomplete. We got to stop and forced a field goal. I think that was huge to kind of keep it set the tone for the game. So I think it's safe to say you guys are expecting big game from Leonard Taylor, maybe a big game from Cam Kinchins. I'm expecting a big game from one of the wide receivers. I would not be surprised if it's either Keyshawn or Romello. Look for TVD to target one of those 2 guys. Let's see, talking about TVD. Not sure he's injured. I mean, I don't know, but TVD seemed off all year so far. A lot of missed throws on his end, and I don't even mean the drops. He's made some bad reads that hurt us. Yeah, no, he hasn't been as good as last year for sure. Honestly, Bergie, I chalk it up to he's learning a new system that maybe he's not really used to. But you got to give it time. That's why I like that there's these kind of softer opponents early in the season that we can test it out against, because we got this game again with the weather. Hopefully they can get it in. And then you got a bye week. You got an extra week to prepare for North Carolina. And if my numbers are correct, Mario Cristobal, while at Oregon, was 6-0 coming out of bye weeks. Feel free to fact check me on that, but I think that's correct. And then, it starts to get real with the ACC schedule. But I think, I still have faith that they're going to get it together. I mean, Tyler's too good of a quarterback. Listen, last year, his first couple games, a lot of people were getting on Tyler. Remember that. He did not look amazing the entire season. His first couple games, he had some adversity, threw some bad interceptions, some bad reads, especially, that cost us in the North Carolina game on the road last year. Remember, he had some adversity, but he responded to it. He was talking some smack against NC State leading up to that game, said he was going to light them up. And guess what? He did, and he never looked back. So let's give the guy a chance to rebound. I truly believe we will get better as the year progresses. I also believe the A&M game as prepares for the Clemson game. I think we will beat Clemson. I like your enthusiasm, sir. I don't feel as confident of that Clemson game. I think it's going to be competitive. I think we're going to go up there and fight. We're going to be physical again. It's probably going to be low scoring because they don't have a great offense. I could be wrong, though. I'm not setting my expectations super high for that game. I just hope at the end of the year we get better with every progressing week and we end up with a solid record. And we finish strong. That's very important. Win your bowl game. Yes, I expect TVDs and wide receivers to get better. I do too. It's the timing with the receivers, in my opinion. Yes, The timing is off. Whether you want to blame TVD or the receivers, it could be a little bit of both. It probably is. Diehard Diesel, Miami 52, Middle Tennessee State 6. I like that. Mine is 48 to 13. I don't think we crack 50 because I think we get off to a big lead early and we just kind of run as the game goes. Run that clock. Again, that weather's going to be a factor. They want to get the game in. So running the clock in the second half is probably going to be imperative. All right, guys. So that's it for me. Hope you guys all enjoy the game. Be safe. Again, stay dry. As always, it's all about the U. Go Canes, and let's get a W today.